My twin got a $115,000 Switzerland adventure for graduation, while I got a cheap mug. Then I shocked everyone with a classic Corvette. I'm 25, male, with a twin sister, and my whole damn life has been this weird gaslighting experiment where my parents pretended they treated us the same while doing the exact opposite. On the surface, my folks were all about this perfect family image. We love our twins equally, they'd tell literally everyone at neighborhood barbecues and family gatherings. We're so blessed to have both of you, they'd say at our joint birthday parties. They'd post these perfect family photos on Facebook with captions like our amazing twins and all that crap. You know the type. But there were always these little things that didn't add up, and over time they started to form a pattern I couldn't ignore. For example, when sis got a 92 on a math test, they'd take her out for ice cream to celebrate. But when I got a 94 on my history final, it was, "That's what we expect from you." Or when she made the volleyball team, they rearranged their work schedules to make it to every game. But when I joined the debate club, they were too busy to come to competitions. One of my first memories of this was in 4th grade. We both tried out for this gifted program at school. I got in, she didn't. Instead of being happy for me, my parents immediately called the school to make sure there wasn't a mistake. There wasn't, but they still made me feel like I'd done something wrong by succeeding where she hadn't. Dad would take my twin shopping for quality clothes for college interviews, but told me to just wear what I had when it was my turn. Girls need more options, he'd shrug when I pointed it out. Mom would spend hours helping sis with her math homework, but when I asked for help with English essays, it was, "Figure it out yourself, you're smart." My parents were master manipulators when it came to making this crap seem normal. They had this way of justifying every difference with some pseudoscientific reason that made it sound fair if you didn't think about it too hard. "Your sister needs more help with science, that's why we got her a tutor." Meanwhile, I struggled with Spanish, but apparently, I just needed to apply myself more. "Your sister's more social, that's why she needs a phone upgrade." But me wanting a better laptop for video editing projects was wasteful spending. I started keeping a mental scorecard around 14, tracking the little inequalities that were piling up. Sister gets a new laptop for school. I get the hand-me-down desktop. Sister gets driving lessons from mom. I get told to practice in the empty church parking lot on weekends. Sister's friends can stay over anytime. Mine need to be approved a week in advance. It was never major enough to call them out without sounding like a whiny witch, but that stuff adds up over time. It's like death by 1,000 tiny cuts. The crazy part is, I didn't even realize how bad it was until I started hanging at friends' houses more often. Seeing how other parents treated siblings who weren't even twins made me realize something was seriously off in my house. My buddy Jake's parents bent over backward to make sure both their kids got the same opportunities, same curfews, same allowance, same rules. My parents? They'd bend over backward to explain why my sister deserved more of everything. For years I convinced myself I was overthinking it. Maybe I was just less deserving. Maybe she really did need more support. The head games were the worst part, making me doubt what was right in front of my face. By high school, the pattern was so obvious I couldn't ignore it. When we both got our licenses, sis got access to mom's car whenever she wanted. I had to provide detailed itineraries and destinations to borrow dad's truck, and even then, it was usually a no. When we both applied to colleges, they spent hours helping her with applications, proofreading essays, scheduling campus tours. Me? The website explains everything you need to know. After years of this, you start to accept your place because my parents played it smart. They reach the master's level of gaslighting, second best, the less important. Twin, the one they had to have because, well, twins come in pairs. Don't get me wrong, they never abused me or anything dramatic like that. They provided the basics. I had food, clothes, a room. They came to parent-teacher conferences. They remembered my birthday. It was the same as sis's, so kind of hard to forget. But there's a big difference between providing for a kid and making them feel valued. I got the former, sis got both. By the time we finished high school, college rolls around, and I'm thinking, this is finally my chance to break free from being the other twin. Sis went to our parents' fancy alma mater, which was like this private university that cost an arm and a leg. Obviously they covered every penny, tuition, housing, meal plan, the works. She even got this sweet apartment just off campus that they paid for because the dorms were too noisy for studying. Meanwhile, I cobbled together some scholarships and financial aid to attend state school. Not a bad school at all, just not the prestigious name my parents wanted to brag about at their country club. When I got my acceptance package, Dad's first comment was, "Well, it's affordable at least." I still needed a part-time job at the campus IT help desk to cover books and living expenses. When I called home that first semester to say I was struggling to balance work and classes, Dad straight up told me, "This is good for you. You need to learn financial responsibility." Meanwhile, my sister would post pictures of her shopping sprees that Mom and Dad funded. The excuse was always, "We just don't have enough for both of you," with this fake sad face, "and your sister's program is more expensive." Funny how they always had enough for her spring break trips to Cancun though, or the time they surprised her with a MacBook Pro because her design class needed it, but made me keep using my 5-year-old laptop that took 10 minutes to boot up. Whatever. I kept my head down and actually found my thing in college, video editing. It started with helping some friends with their film class projects. Then I got connected with some small YouTubers who needed editing. Before long I was doing freelance work for actual channels with subscribers and stuff, then some smaller brands and businesses. I built up a decent client list while juggling classes, even started making pretty good money. Nothing crazy, but enough that I didn't have to work at the help desk by senior year. Parents never asked much about it. When I'd try to show them projects I was proud of, they'd just nod and say stuff like, "That's nice," before changing the subject to whatever my sister was doing. They just assumed I was messing around online whenever I mentioned working on projects. My dad once actually referred to my work as my little computer hobby when relatives asked what I was studying. Meanwhile, Sis's internship at some marketing firm was apparently the greatest achievement since someone invented sliced bread. Then came graduation. We were finishing the same semester, her with her business degree, me with digital media. My grades were actually better than hers, not that anyone cared, and I already had steady freelance work while she was still hunting for a job. We had this big family dinner to celebrate both of us finishing college. My grandmother was there, some aunts and uncles, the whole deal. My parents made this big show of having special gifts for both of us. They made all these hints about how they'd been planning something amazing for months. They handed Sis an envelope first. She opened it and literally screamed like she'd won the lottery. Inside was a confirmation for a 3-week luxury tour of Switzerland. We're talking 5-star hotels, first-class flights, private guided tours of the Alps, even $2,000 in spending money. It had to be at least $15,000 worth of trip. Everyone was oohing and ahhing while she passed around the brochure showing the fancy hotels and stuff. When it was my turn, my dad handed me a $100 Amazon gift card and a World's Greatest Grad mug they probably grabbed from the campus bookstore on the way to dinner. The room got quiet. Even my sister looked uncomfortable. My grandma was doing that thing where she pretends to be super interested in her napkin. "Is there something else?" I asked, trying not to sound like a spoiled brat but also wondering if they'd forgotten the rest of my gift in the car or something. My dad actually chuckled. "Your sister earned this trip with her perfect GPA and job lined up at the Anderson firm. What exactly have you accomplished besides playing on computers?" I just sat there staring at him. I didn't even have a job lined up because I was already working as a freelancer, making actual money. But that didn't count because it wasn't a corporate desk job. Mom jumped in, "We're just being practical, honey. Your sister has a career path. You need to focus on finding a real job instead of expecting rewards for doing the minimum." That was it. 22 years of pretending we were treated equally just went up in flames. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. There was no explanation that could make $115,000 versus $100 seem fair. No pseudoscientific nonsense about different needs could cover this gap. My aunt tried to smooth things over by asking about my plans after graduation, but I was barely listening. The room felt like it was spinning. I just kept looking at that stupid mug while my sister talked about the chocolate tour she was going to take in Zurich. I didn't say anything, just nodded and excused myself early, claiming I had a freelance deadline. As much as I wanted to flip the table and tell them all to go screw themselves, I just smiled and left. When I got back to my apartment, I just sat in the dark for hours. All these memories of similar gifts over the years came flooding back. It wasn't just my imagination, it wasn't me being sensitive. The proof was right there in the form of a first-class ticket to Switzerland, versus a gift card that wouldn't even cover a decent textbook. They left for Switzerland with Sis the following week, telling me to use the time to figure out my life, like I was some directionless loser instead of someone who'd worked his a-hole off through college while building a business. Mom texted pictures of Sis in front of the Matterhorn and eating fondue in some chalet. I stopped responding after the 3rd day. I was sitting in my apartment, feeling sorry for myself, when my phone buzzed, pulling me out of my pity party. The caller ID made me pause. It was Uncle Josh. Now, here's some background. My dad has an older brother, Uncle Josh, and they haven't spoken in about 15 years. Some old grudge over my grandpa's will that my dad never really explains, just mumbles something about betrayal and inheritance. From what I gathered, Grandpa left Uncle Josh a valuable piece of land that Dad had his eye on, and my dad felt like he got cheated because he was the one who took care of their dad in his final years. Dad's stance on Uncle Josh was pretty extreme. He straight up banned us from seeing him when I was around 10, calling him a thief and a backstabber. Anyone who even mentioned his name was betraying the family. Dramatic? Definitely. Effective? Not so much, because, of course, throughout these years, I ended up sneaking around to see him. Maybe it was rebellion, or maybe I was just desperate for someone who didn't treat me like I was invisible. Uncle Josh ran this small auto repair shop across town, and in high school I'd tell my parents I was studying at the library or hanging with friends, then bike over there. We'd tinker with cars, and honestly, those afternoons meant more to me than anything happening back at home. My uncle was restoring this classic 1969 Corvette Stingray, candy apple red, all original parts. It was in rough shape when he got it. Some rich dude's midlife crisis purchase that got neglected in a garage for years. Uncle Josh got it for a steal at an estate sale. He taught me how engines worked, how to replace brake lines, sand down rust spots, all that mechanical stuff. My dad never bothered to show me because he was too busy teaching my sister how to golf or whatever. I'd help Uncle Josh on weekends, learning more from him in those garage sessions than my dad had taught me in my entire life. Well, Uncle Josh wasn't perfect. Heavy drinker, swore like a sailor, had 3 ex-wives. But he treated me like I mattered. He asked about my interests, listened when I talked, basic uncle stuff. That felt revolutionary after years of being the family afterthought. Back to where I left off, after the Switzerland trip nonsense went down. I was sitting in my crappy apartment, feeling sorry for myself. My roommates had all moved out after graduation, so I was alone with my thoughts, which is never a good place to be after a family mind screw. I kept looking at that stupid world's greatest grad mug and feeling like the biggest loser on the planet. Then my phone rang. It was Uncle Josh. I hadn't heard from him in a few months. "Hey kid, how's it going? Heard you graduated." I ended up telling him everything, the trip, the Amazon card, all of it. He just listened, not interrupting, then said, "Your dad always was a self-important prick, even when we were kids. Come by the garage tomorrow, got something to show you." When I got there the next day, he had the Corvette pulled out onto the lot, waxed and gleaming in the sun. The restoration we'd worked on for years was finally done, and holy crap, it was beautiful. The red paint job looked wet, the chrome sparkled, and the engine had that perfect rumble when he fired it up. "Hop in," he said, tossing me the keys. "You sure? We just finished it." I was nervous as hell. This car was easily worth $60,000 restored. "You helped build half of it. You know how to drive it." We drove around town for an hour, that engine rumbling under us, people literally stopping to stare at stoplights. I felt like a badass for the first time in my life. When we got back to his place, he shut off the car but told me to stay in the driver's seat. "This car has been my project for 10 years. You helped me bring her back to life during the last 5. Now I want you to have her." I thought he was joking. "Uncle Josh, I can't take your Corvette. This is your baby." He shook his head. "Look, I've got 3 other project cars, and your aunt's been on my a-hole about clearing out the garage. Plus, my back can't handle crawling under these lowriders anymore. Consider it a graduation present from someone who's actually proud of you." I tried to argue, but he was serious. The paperwork was already drawn up. He'd planned this whole thing. By that evening, I was the owner of a restored 1969 Corvette, worth easily $60,000. "Won't this just piss off my dad more?" I asked as we finished the paperwork. Uncle Josh grinned. "Consider that a bonus. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. My folks and sis were due back from Switzerland in 2 days. I spent those 48 hours detailing that Corvette until you could see your face in the paint job. Every second, my mind kept replaying the moment they'd pull up and see it sitting there, gleaming like a challenge. I kept wondering, what would Dad do? Lose his mind? Try to act like it didn't bother him? Demand I move it before his precious neighbors saw it? The thoughts were eating me alive, but I wasn't backing down. The night before they landed, I parked the car right in their driveway, dead center, like a trophy, a chrome-plated declaration that I wasn't going to be sidelined anymore. I actually slept in my old bedroom that night. Well, tried to sleep. Mom had texted earlier, asking if I could pick them up from the airport, but I accidentally overslept. They took a taxi instead, not my problem. The next day, their plane landed around noon. I was sitting on the porch steps, nerves buzzing, when the taxi pulled up. I watched them unload. Dad was mid-laugh about something with my sister, then he saw it, the Corvette. His smile dropped so fast it was like someone flipped a switch. He stopped dead, eyes locked on the car, his face going from confusion to realization to, well, I couldn't tell if it was shock, anger, or both. And I just sat there, waiting to see which one it would be. "What the hell is that?" he demanded. He knew exactly what it was. He grew up in the muscle car era. That car wasn't just a vehicle to him, it was a statement. And the fact that I was the one making it, that was the real problem. "My graduation present," I said, forcing my voice to stay casual while my heart was pounding out of my chest. I wanted to sound unfazed, but my pulse was loud in my ears. I was bracing for the explosion, but I wasn't about to back down, not this time. Mom rushed over, still pulling her luggage. "You can't afford something like this. What did you do? Please tell me you didn't take out a loan for a car." I shrugged. I didn't buy it. It was a gift. Dad circled the car, inspecting it like he was looking for flaws. When he saw the license plate frame from Uncle Josh's garage, he literally started shaking. "Josh gave you this car? You've been seeing Josh behind my back?" Sis just stood there with her Switzerland tan, looking confused probably, calculating how this affected her position as the favorite. "I've been helping Uncle Josh restore this Corvette for years," I said, not bothering to hide it anymore. "He taught me all about engines and bodywork. We rebuilt it together. He wanted me to have it since I'd put in so much work." Dad's face got darker with every word, like he was about to have a stroke. "All these years you've been lying to us, going behind our backs to see him?" "You didn't give me much choice," I pointed out. "You banned us from talking to him when I was a kid. Because he stole from this family," Dad shouted, spit flying. "I don't know anything about that. I just know he's always treated me with respect. Get that thing out of my driveway now." Dad was in full nuclear mode. Mom tried to play peacemaker, putting her hand on Dad's arm. "Let's all calm down and discuss this inside," always trying to sweep conflict under the rug. But Dad was too far gone. "You have two choices," he said, jabbing his finger at me. "Return that car to Josh and apologize for going behind our backs, or pack your things and get out of this house." "I don't live here anymore," I reminded him. "I have my own apartment." "Then I guess we're done here," he said, grabbing his suitcase and heading inside. "Don't expect any help from us when that piece of junk breaks down, or you can't afford the insurance." Mom followed him, giving me this sad look, like I was the one causing problems after years of their nonsense. Sis waited until they were inside before whispering, "The car's actually awesome, but you know how Dad feels about Uncle Josh." I just nodded. "Enjoy your Swiss chocolates." Later that night, Dad called. I thought maybe he'd calm down, but nope. "As long as you keep that car, you're choosing Josh over this family. Think about what you're doing. Return it, and we can move past this." I didn't hesitate. I already have thought about it. Maybe this isn't about Uncle Josh. Maybe it's about finally getting recognized for once instead of being the family afterthought. "This is ridiculous. You're not an afterthought. We've given you everything. How dare you?" I hung up on him. First time I'd ever done that. It felt freaking amazing. That night, I drove around in my new Corvette with the windows down, stereo blasting, feeling like I just dropped a grenade in the middle of our family dynamic. Part of me felt guilty. I'm not usually a confrontational person. But a bigger part felt this weird sense of freedom, like I'd finally stopped pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. The next few days were intense. Mom called about 15 times. I let most go to voicemail. But when I finally picked up, she was in full damage control mode. "Your father didn't mean what he said. He was just shocked. You know how he gets when he's surprised." Classic mom, always making excuses for Dad's temper. "He seemed pretty clear to me," I said. "He's just hurt that you've been seeing Josh all these years without telling us. It feels like a betrayal." I had to laugh at that. "A betrayal? You guys have been treating me like a second-class citizen my entire life, and me hanging out with Uncle Josh is a betrayal? That's not true. We've always loved you both the same." There was panic in her voice now. "Mom, you literally just gave Sis a $115,000 vacation while I got a mug. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending that's equal treatment." She tried to explain that away too, something about how Sis needed the confidence boost after some job interview didn't go well and how they'd planned to do something for me later. "Sure, Mom, sure." Dad's approach was different. He texted, "When you're ready to act like an adult and discuss this rationally, let me know." This coming from the dude who'd basically thrown a tantrum in the driveway. The audacity of this guy. Meanwhile, Sis was playing both sides. She texted me stuff like, "Dad's really upset, you should apologize," and then, in the next breath, asked if I could take her for a ride in the Corvette sometime. Always looking out for number one, that girl. After about a week of this back and forth, Dad finally called. I figured he'd calmed down, maybe was ready to have a real conversation about years of unequal treatment. Nope. He went straight to business mode. "I've been thinking about this situation, and I'm willing to make you an offer," he said. Like this was some kind of negotiation. "I'm listening," I replied. "Return the car to Josh, and your mother and I will help you purchase something more appropriate for a new graduate. We could match what you've saved for a down payment on a sensible sedan." I nearly spit out my drink. "Are you serious right now?" "I'm trying to meet you halfway," he said, sounding annoyed that I wasn't jumping at his generous offer. "Dad, the Corvette is mine. Uncle Josh gave it to me as a graduation present. Something you and Mom didn't bother to do in any meaningful way. That Amazon gift card was perfectly reasonable. Not everyone gets a luxury trip after college." Exactly my point. Not everyone, just sis. He changed tactics. "Think about the insurance costs, the maintenance. These old cars are money pits. I've thought about it. I can afford it. My computer hobby pays pretty well, not that you've ever bothered to ask." There was a long pause. "As long as you keep that car, you're choosing to disrespect me and everything I've done for you. I won't have it parked in my driveway again." "Fine by me. I don't plan on visiting much anyway." "Is that how it's going to be? You're choosing a car over your family?" That's when I finally lost it. "No, Dad. I'm choosing to be treated with respect for once in my life. The car is just a symbol. This is about 25 years of you and Mom playing favorites and expecting me to pretend I don't notice. That's ridiculous. We've never..." "Save it. I'm done pretending. Either acknowledge that you've treated us differently and apologize, or I'll be keeping my distance. Ball's in your court." He was quiet for a moment then. "I think you need some time to cool off and reconsider your attitude. When you're ready to apologize for going behind our backs and accepting gifts from a man who stole from this family, we'll be here." Then he hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like I was in the Twilight Zone. How could he still not see it? Was he really that blind to his own behavior, or was he just hoping I'd back down like I always had before? Either way, it was clear nothing was going to change. I texted Mom, "I'm not returning the car. I'm not apologizing for accepting a graduation gift from someone who actually values me. If Dad can't handle that, it's his problem." The next day my grandmother called, curious about the car drama. I laid it all out: the favoritism, the Switzerland trip versus mug situation, Uncle Josh's gift, and Dad's ultimatum. Instead of defending my dad like I expected, she sighed and admitted that sometimes people convince themselves they're being fair when they're not. When I asked if she'd noticed the favoritism, she didn't hesitate. Everyone had seen it but didn't feel it was their place to say anything. That hit hard. I'd spent years thinking I was imagining it while everyone else just watched. When I asked what I should do, she was clear: keep the car, live your life, and stop shrinking yourself to keep Dad comfortable. Coming from his own mother, that advice hit different. By week 3 of the standoff, Dad had moved to completely ignoring my existence. The funny thing was, while all this drama was playing out, my life was actually improving. That Corvette turned out to be a serious business asset. When I'd pull up to meetings with potential clients, they'd immediately want to talk about the car, which led to conversations about restoration, which led to me explaining my attention to detail, which led to contracts. I landed 2 major clients that month alone. I even started dating this cute barista who complimented the car when I drove through her coffee stand. We hit it off immediately. And for the first time, I was with someone who was genuinely interested in my work and didn't compare me to anyone else. As June turned to July, I was settling into my new normal: minimal contact with my parents, occasional texts with sis, regular rides in my awesome car, growing business, new girlfriend. Things were looking up. Then I got the invitation to the annual family reunion at my grandparents' lake house in August, the one Uncle Josh was explicitly never invited to because Dad refused to attend if his brother was there. Grandma called personally to ask me to come. "I want both my sons there this year. I'm not getting any younger, and this feud has gone on long enough. Your grandpa would finally be at peace if we put this behind us." "Does Dad know Uncle Josh is invited?" "Not yet," she admitted. "But he'll just have to deal with it. Life's too short for this nonsense." I didn't give her a final response. I spent a couple of weeks wondering if I should even go. On one hand, I hadn't seen my grandma in months, and I genuinely missed her. On the other hand, voluntarily walking into a situation where both my dad and Uncle Josh would be present seemed like a recipe for disaster. I finally decided to attend after my girlfriend convinced me it might actually be good to have everything out in the open. At least it'll be in public with witnesses, she joked. Your dad can't completely lose his shanty with your entire extended family watching. So I went. I decided to arrive fashionably late, to minimize awkward small talk, and yeah, I drove the Corvette. If I was going to face the music, I might as well play the full symphony, right? When I pulled up, the driveway was already packed with cars. I could see people gathered on the back deck, the grill going, kids running around, normal family stuff. I took a deep breath and headed in, scanning the crowd for my dad's face. I spotted him by the coolers, beer in hand, chatting with my Uncle Rob. He clocked me immediately, his expression changing from laughing to stone cold in an instant. Mom was nearby and gave me an awkward wave. Sis was showing off her Switzerland photos on her phone to our cousins. Grandma saved me by rushing over for a hug. You made it. Come get a plate, the burgers are almost ready. I made my rounds, saying hi to everyone while carefully orbiting around Dad. He was doing the same dance, keeping maximum distance between us. Mom kept glancing nervously between us, like she was watching a ticking bomb. Things were tense but manageable, until Uncle Josh showed up about an hour later. He came around the side of the house, carrying a watermelon. Grandma had obviously not warned anyone else he was coming, because the entire backyard went silent. You could literally hear the ice melting in the coolers. Dad immediately stood up. What the hell is he doing here? Grandma, who'd been quietly tending the grill, finally spoke up. I invited him, David. He's my son too, and I'm tired of this nonsense. Dad looked like he'd been slapped. After what he did, you're choosing him over me? Nobody's choosing anyone over anyone, Grandma said firmly. We're all family, and it's time to act like it. Dad looked around at everyone staring, then grudgingly sat back down. Crisis temporarily averted. Uncle Josh nodded at me from across the yard but kept his distance from Dad. Smart move. My cousin Jason, who's always been cool, came over to break the tension. Hey man, is that the Corvette out front? Can I see it? We walked out to the driveway, and a few other cousins followed, all curious about the car. I popped the hood to show off the engine, and everyone was genuinely impressed. Where'd you get it? My cousin Amber asked. Before I could answer, Uncle Josh had joined our little group. We restored it together, he said proudly. Kid's got a natural talent for mechanics. My cousin's eyes widened. Wait, this is the car? The one that caused the big fight? Word had obviously spread through the family grapevine. Yeah, this is it, I admitted. It's awesome, Jason said, running his hand along the fender. Uncle Josh has been showing me pictures of the restoration for years. I didn't know what to say to that. While my own dad had been dismissing my interests and achievements for years, Uncle Josh had apparently been bragging about me to the rest of the family. We were all still checking out the car when Dad appeared in the driveway, beer in hand, Mom nervously hovering behind him. So this is what betrayal looks like, he said loudly, obviously a few beers in at this point. My own son, conspiring with my brother behind my back for years. I sighed. Here we go. Dad, no one was conspiring against you. I just helped my uncle restore a car. After everything we've done for you, he continued, ignoring me completely. That's when I snapped. I'd been holding back for weeks, years really. But something in me just broke. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Everything you've done for me? Like what, exactly? We put a roof over your head, fed you, clothed you, put you through college. I had scholarships and loans for college, I corrected him. And yeah, you provided the basics. Congrats on doing the legal minimum for your kid. By now, the entire family had gathered in and around the driveway, watching this drama unfold. My sister tried to jump in. Come on, they've always supported both of us. I couldn't handle it anymore. Years of keeping score, of swallowing the unfairness, came pouring out. Really? Remember when you got a car for our 16th birthday, and I got a bus pass? Or when you got to go to Europe after high school, and I got a gift card? Or how about 3 months ago when they spent $115,000 on your Switzerland trip while I got a freaking coffee mug? The whole family was dead silent now. Some looked shocked. Others were nodding, like they'd seen this coming. All my life, I've watched them give you everything while telling me I needed to earn the same things. So don't tell me we were treated equally. Dad's face was purple. That's ridiculous. We've always treated you exactly the same. Uncle Josh snorted. Bullshit, Dave. You've been playing favorites since they were in diapers. And that's when things went from bad to nuclear. Dad whipped around to face Uncle Josh, his eyes practically bulging out of his head. You, he shouted, jabbing his finger. You don't get to say a damn word about my parenting. First you steal my inheritance, and now you're trying to steal my son from me." Uncle Josh stood his ground. "Nobody stole anything. Dad left me the lake house because he knew I'd actually take care of it, and nobody stole your son either. You drove him away all by yourself." Dad lunged at Uncle Josh so fast nobody could react. He shoved him hard against the side of the Corvette. "You always take what's mine," he yelled, getting right in Uncle Josh's face. Uncle Josh tried to back up. "Dave, come on, don't do this." That's when Dad straight up punched Uncle Josh in the face, like full-on right hook to the jaw. Uncle Josh stumbled sideways, catching himself on the car. Everyone freaked. Grandma was yelling. Mom was screaming at Dad to stop. Cousins were pulling out phones to record this nonsense. I jumped between them before Dad could take another swing. "What the hell are you doing?" Dad tried to shove me aside. "Get out of the way. No, you need to back off right now." Uncle Josh was wiping blood from his lip, looking more sad than angry. "This is exactly why your dad and I haven't spoken in 15 years, kid. He can't control his temper when he doesn't get his way." Dad was practically foaming at the mouth at this point. "Don't you talk to my son. He's my son, not yours. Then maybe you should start acting like a father instead of a dictator." Uncle Josh shot back. I put my hand on Uncle Josh's shoulder, partly to check if he was okay, and partly to show my support. Dad looked at my hand, then at my face, and something in him just broke. "So that's how it is? You're choosing him over your own dad, just for a car?" "I'm choosing to not let you assault your brother at a family reunion," I said. Dad laughed, a weird, hollow sound. "Well then, I guess you've made your choice." He looked me dead in the eyes. "You're not my son anymore." The words hung in the air like a physical thing. Everyone got quiet. Mom gasped. Sis looked like she might throw up. "David, you don't mean that," Grandma said from the edge of the driveway. "I absolutely do," he said, not breaking eye contact with me. "No son of mine would betray his family like this." I should have been hurt, crushed even. But honestly, all I felt was relief, like the last chain tying me to years of emotional abuse had finally snapped. "Fine," I said calmly. "If that's how you want it." Dad seemed thrown by my lack of reaction. He'd expected me to beg for forgiveness, I think. When I didn't, he just turned and stormed toward his car. "David, wait!" Mom called, running after him. "Anyone who stays here is choosing that thief over me," Dad shouted over his shoulder. "Barbara, let's go." Mom looked torn, glancing between Dad and me. "I'm sorry," she whispered before following him. Classic Mom, always choosing the path of least resistance. Dad's parting shot was directed at my sister. "Let's go." He barked at her. To everyone's shock, including mine, she shook her head. "I'm staying," she said quietly. "I think I need to hear this." Dad looked at her like she'd stabbed him in the back, then got in his car and peeled out of the driveway alone. Mom hesitated, then ran after him, catching the car just as he was backing out. The family reunion basically imploded after that. Some relatives were arguing about whether they should have spoken up sooner. Others were checking on Uncle Josh's face, just a cut lip, no real damage. Grandma was sitting on the porch steps, looking exhausted. Uncle Josh refused ice for his lip and grabbed a beer instead. "Been expecting that punch for about 15 years, he said, wincing as he took a sip. "I'm sorry," I told him. "For what?" "You didn't throw the punch. But he hit you because of me. Because of the car." Uncle Josh shook his head. "No, kid, he hit me because he's always been a jealous, controlling a-hole who can't stand when things don't go his way. Been that way since we were kids." He looked around at the chaos of the ruined reunion. "This was my fault. I shouldn't have come." Grandma overheard and joined us. "Nonsense. This is your family too, Josh. David's the one who needs to grow up." I stuck around for another hour chatting with Uncle Josh and my cousins, while the tension cooled. My sister kept her distance, looking shell-shocked, but eventually came over. She admitted she'd never really noticed the favoritism, assuming they were just harder on me because I was more independent. When I told her that's exactly what they'd wanted her to think, she looked genuinely upset and apologized. It wasn't enough to erase years of resentment, but it was something. Driving home that night, I felt strangely lighter. Dad had effectively disowned me in front of the whole family, and somehow, it felt like freedom, like I finally had permission to stop chasing approval I'd never get. The next day after the reunion, I had dozens of missed calls from Mom and Sis, but silence from Dad. Guess disowning someone means no talking. Uncle Josh called the next day. "Your dad showed up at my garage with a lawyer. Says he's suing me for alienation of affection, claims I deliberately turned you against him." Mom called right after, crying. "Your father is talking to lawyers about getting the Corvette back. Says Josh never had clear title." "The car's legally mine," I reminded her. title transferred months ago. Please, she begged. Just return it. It's tearing this family apart. The car isn't the problem, Mom. Dad's behavior is. 3 days later, Dad sent a cease and desist letter demanding I stop making defamatory statements about their parenting and return the illegally obtained vehicle. My lawyer friend said it wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. I'd honestly had enough, so I blocked everyone's numbers after that, went full no contact except with Grandma. 2 weeks later, my business landed a major contract with Horizon Streaming. I moved into a house with a home office and hired 2 assistants to handle the workload. Uncle Josh and I still grab beers weekly. Dad's lawsuit threat fizzled out when his lawyer got shut down. According to Grandma, he's telling relatives I'm having a tantrum and will come crawling back. Meanwhile, Sis moved home after failing to find a job matching her expectations. The Corvette still runs beautifully. My girlfriend and I take weekend drives along the coast, no family drama in the rear view. Sometimes, I wonder what might have been if they'd treated us equally. If Dad had valued my interests the way he valued my sisters, if Mom had stood up for me instead of enabling his behavior. But you can't change the past. You can only decide what you'll accept going forward. And I decided I wouldn't accept being the family scapegoat anymore, the twin who was never good enough. I built a life that speaks for itself. That's the only validation that matters. TLDR. After Dad disowned me at the family reunion, he tried suing my uncle and taking over my business. I cut them all off, and now I'm living my best life.